Sport, another game.
Hey, chump, you want to run? You mean play basketball?
In a 10-year span, actor Woody Harrelson has gotten his share of laughs.
Jesus Christ, Pepper. Ow!
This summer, he plays a fish out of water, a rodeo rider in New York City, in his new film, The Cowboy Way.
Look, Mom, cowboys!
Oh, here's your beer.
And the bartender from Cheers has learned a few new tricks.
Howdy. You ever done a shiver shot? Just take this, put it right there, put that there, and I get the shot.
But behind the laughter, Woody Harrelson lives with what he calls a shadow over his life.
We were filming on Cowboy Way one day, and this woman walks past me and says, "Your father should have gotten the chair for what he did," and just kept walking. Really upset me.
Woody's father, Charles Harrelson, was convicted of murder in the 1968 contract killing of a Texas businessman. Woody was only 7 when his father began serving a 15-year prison sentence. Do you have early memories of him before he left the family?
Yeah, I remember him going away a lot, and he'd come home, and he'd have his arms stretched out, and we'd all run and hug him, and I always had a great opinion of him. He was very loving, you know. But, you know, he wasn't really around that much for my childhood. He was in prison in '68, and
But you didn't know he was in prison at that when he left?
I didn't know. I heard I found out, oddly enough, over the radio.
Did you ask your mother? She hadn't told you, I guess, about your dad going to jail, huh?
She hadn't. She had neglected to mention that to me.
Diane Harrelson was left to raise 3 young boys by herself. She moved the family from Midland, Texas to Lebanon, Ohio, where she took a job as a legal secretary and put her faith in God. Were you raised in a very religious environment?
I was a very religious kid in the sense that, you know, I carried my Bible around and was, because I did kind of want to be a preacher for a while. But there's a lot of similarities between a preacher and an actor.
When the time came for college, Woody was awarded a scholarship from the Presbyterian Church. He chose Hanover College in neighboring Indiana.
I was a bit of a mama's boy. Anything she said, I would, you know, think it was the golden truth, you know. Like she said, I never looked at another college. She says, I think you should go where that Tom Olson boy went. Tom Olson was this kid who was in our church. I didn't really know him that well. And then she says, I think you should join that fraternity that Tom Olson boy's in. I said, all right. So I joined the Sigma Chi fraternity. I mean, I you know, majored in English like she did.
At Hanover, Woody appeared in 26 plays.
You know what angels are, don't you?
What?
Angels are what we call the people in heaven.
Recently, he returned to his alma mater to star in a special production of The Diviners.
It's only right for the guests to pray before meals.
Oh, well, this ain't exactly a meal, man.
But Harrelson's college years were interrupted when that shadow in his life reappeared. It was 1979 when federal judge John Wood was gunned down outside his home in San Antonio, Texas. Harrelson's father, on parole at the time, was accused of killing the judge for $250,000. Charles Harrelson was convicted and is now serving 2 life terms in federal prison in Atlanta. Do you get to see him very often? Do you see him?
I do, yeah.
Do you visit the prison?
I go to visit him.
Have you talked to him about it?
Oh, sure. He has always said he's innocent of this crime, and he continues to say so, you know. Now, my dad has done a lot of things illegally, but he's also, there's probably a handful of people in the world, maybe a handful of people, who can do what he can do with a deck of cards. And he can make an enormous living. You know, I don't know that he would have any need to commit a crime like that for money. Now, the question about what he's done, you know, certainly, you know, something that needs to be addressed. But the odd thing is, if you sit down and rap with the guy, the main thing you're probably going to do is laugh.
Do you think you're like your father?
Oh, there's a lot of similarities, yeah.
How so?
I want to segue off the father thing. I've talked enough about him. Let's move on to something else, if you don't mind.
I don't mind. No, I don't mind. But it's hard, Woody, because it's, you know, it's a big, huge part of your childhood and now part of your life. And so it's hard.
I understand that, and it's certainly got to be the most sensationalistic part of my life, you know. And from a media standpoint, it would, for me, be the most interesting thing if I was interviewing you. You were a celebrity and your father was imprisoned for murder. But
what I'm more concerned about rather than is how you feel about him.
how I feel about him? Oh, I love him. I definitely love him. Very fond of him. I mean, who knows? There's probably a lot of people who should be behind bars. I don't necessarily think he's one of them.
Now at 32, Harrelson is probing that shadow.
Woody Harrelson.
In Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers, opening later this summer, he plays Mickey, a serial killer.
What do you have to say to your fans?
You ain't seen nothing yet.
My shadow looms large. You know, I have a side to me that is really violent, you know, and it can just get set off. And it's like I'm not even in control. And I used to fight a lot. I fought all the time, you know. And that whole fighting aspect of my nature, it's all a part of the shadow.
This is amazing.
For Woody Harrelson, success has come easy. At age 24, this newcomer to the business landed on Cheers.
Excuse me, my name's Woody Boyd.
Woody? Hi, I'm Sam Malone.
And of course, fame, wealth, and women followed. He engaged in a string of highly publicized romances. Glenn Close, Carol Kane, Ali Sheedy.
It didn't matter how many beautiful women I was with, it was not making me happy. I think a lot of people find reasons that they shouldn't be loved, you know? I think I've found many reasons why I'm not worthy of love, you know? And so to be kind of loved unconditionally, it's just, wow, you know?
He says he has found that with Laura Louie, the mother of his 15-month-old daughter, Denny.
She was my assistant for 2.5 years. Never laid a glove on her. And then I went to Africa and I was thinking about her a lot. You know, she's like my assistant and I knew better. But I just kept fantasizing about her while I was in Africa. And so I wrote her this song and I came back and I played it for her, which kind of just told everything in a song. And so she said to me, well, you know, basically for the last 2.5 years, I've been in love with you. So I picked her up and I carried her into my room.
You said you'll never marry.
Oh, I'm sure of that. I'm sure I'll never marry. Certainly not in the traditional sense of it. If I'm married, the vows would be, I will have and hold you until we get bored with each other. You know, we'd have to change those vows. Oh yeah, sure. She might get bored with me too, you know.
Do you like being a father?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah. She's a ball to hang out with. She is such fun. I like just following her around. You know, she leads, totally. It's like she's the parent. She's the one she's the teacher. She'll show me what it's all about. You've been living in your little Hollywood world, then come with me for a little while. I'll show you what life's about. And she does.
You know, Woody, I think you've had sort of a charmed life in a certain way.
No question. It's like hitting the lottery twice, you know? I've been extremely fortunate. And, you know, knock wood, I actually, you know, I hope I always appreciate it the way I do now.
Speaking of Hollywood, Woody Harrelson says he likes to get away as much as he can, and he and his family now spend most of their time in Costa Rica. They're even building a home there.
Still ahead, is there a sexual revolution going on